What's up, guys? Welcome to today's reviews of FoxWhoop 3.5 from Foxeer. Supposed to be an indestructible drone, but we'll let Oregon trees be the judge of that, because this spot right here, all these super high trees behind me, they've already claimed 2 of my GoPros. They're super dense, super thick, and it's kind of like hitting a concrete wall. So we'll find out if this can handle some thick, heavy Oregon action for Cinewhoop Freestyle on 6S. Here we go for the flight test. After that, we'll go back to the bench and do it. Here we go. You ever fly like straight into a tree on purpose? I don't very often, that's for sure. Let's check it out. So it looks like the back antenna popped off, and front looks okay, camera looks okay. Looks like all the ducts, prop guards look okay. She lives to fly again. I missed that first tree. Alright guys, welcome back from the flight test. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? to just purposely crash a Cinewhoop straight into a tree and not have the frame, the unibody break, or the prop guards. Everything came back in one piece except that pesky O-ring around this camera. We're going to get into that in this review. We're going to give an honest review of the brand new FoxWhoop 3.5 from Foxeer. I've been watching this on social media, and if you haven't seen it, you got to go find their Facebook group, jump into that, and look at the video where they drive a car over this frame. Right away, this frame is around 6 millimeters thick, this unibody part right here, and the prop guards have a little bit of bend to them. They're a different material than what Geprc used on the Cinebot 30. They're also a little bit taller vertically than the Cinebot 30, and I think that adds to maybe the extra struts and arms in here, and maybe adding to the bit of tumble that we get, because with the freestyle test on the Cinebot 30, we got no tumble, no kind of flight controller freak out or anything. And look, you notice there's no struts in here on this design, and we didn't mention that before in this Cinebot 30 review, but on both Cinebots, both of these have 0 horizontal struts, giving extra strength to these prop guards. But they took a concrete hit. I got a little bit of scratches, and they didn't break on a concrete hit, so that's good. Now this one also took some hard hits, drove it straight into a tree on purpose. One time, a couple times on accident, I came home with like one little scratch right here. But the biggest, I think the weakest link of this entire design right here, and we got to be honest on, because it is a review, this camera sticks out right here. And I've seen this on other Cinewhoop designs. I have a whole box of them behind me. Whenever they have the camera hanging out front like this without any kind of lens protection, that's something that gets a hard smack. And these O-rings around this camera lens are just notorious for snapping. You can kind of throw a little piece of CA on there after you get it nice and tight, a tiny dab on the O-ring itself, not on the camera threading, to hold that in place for temporary fix. But that was a bummer, because I kind of had to fudge it back together. This thing kind of moves and it vibrates back into a blurry situation on the camera. So I think that's the weakest link on here that's not the indestructible part. The indestructible part of this frame is going to be the prop guards and this 6 millimeter top plate unibody. This beveled carbon fiber, 3K carbon fiber, and you can see it's about twice as thick as the Cinebot. Just put those side by side right there, and you can see that. Look at that. That's so much thicker. So if you're looking for kind of a more durable, tanky style frame, the FoxWhoop 3.5 is going to be that frame. One thing that kind of bothered me, as well as the camera sticking out front right here, is the fact that this standoff post right here is in the way of getting to the USB port for the Caddx Vista down here. There's also some kind of wires hanging down. Push these wires out of the way, and then you can put your USB-C cable in there. But you're going to have to release this top bolt right here and the bottom bolt. Take that standoff off, and then you can activate and register your Caddx Vista. I like the way the battery fit across the top here. I had no problem with that. It's a little bit of exposure, just like all of these Cinewhoops have for the top mount battery, but it is a side-to-side mount, unlike that pesky Avata with the offset CG, like the battery hanging way back here. These companies know what they're doing when it comes to designing a Cinewhoop. They just do. They all have TBS crossfire on them as well. You can get other receivers on these models like RXSR, XM Plus. You can get ELRS on there as well. And I had to take this bottom plate off, because when I first plugged this in, the camera was black. And so I had to pull the Vista out and re-plug in the Foxeer Apollo digital camera. And this is a brand new camera that you guys saw today from Foxeer that now works with the Vistas. You can also get an analog version of this one, the DJI O3 version, and you can get an HD0 version of the Foxeer FoxWhoop 35. That's pretty cool. So 4 different camera choices, VTX choices on this Cinewhoop. That's kind of crazy. The one that I have here with Crossfire Nano as it sits is $419 retail. So it's not the cheapest Cinewhoop in the world, but I do like the fact that in the back we have this tall antenna here. And this is a singular antenna. It's not like the O3, where the O3 is a singular antenna back here, but it has 2 antennas inside this single cap. And that's the way that DJI designed this one. This one is
a Vista from Geprc, and there's a little difference here. You can see this is a little more bendy, and it has a smaller left-hand circular polarized cap right there than the Foxeer one. This is the Foxeer Lollipop 4 Plus, and the 4 Plus is for the Caddx Vista. Now, one thing that kind of bothered me about crashing this one was every time I crashed, this is made to pop out, so something's got to give here. It does probably save the wire going to the Vista, just having it pop off, but it could also compromise it. So it's kind of a catch-22 right there with that antenna post that pops out. We have an XT60 back here as well for the 6S motors. We have an F7 flight controller. It's called the Hardcore flight controller. It's pretty cool. It's an AIO 45 amp ESCs on there, running these Datura motors, but they're beautiful, beautifully made. I love the way these look. I've flown them before. Beautiful blue anodized aluminum bases on them. And we've got M2 hardware, 4 bolts holding this through this frame. And this is so much thicker than any of the other Cinewhoops out there as far as this unibody goes. This carbon is really thick. Got 4 bolts on the bottom part to get to your Vista or your flight controller. That's another thing I like about it in comparison to the Cinebot 30 design. This one has like 8 bolts you have to release for the Cinebot 30. Pretty easy to get to the flight controller because the O3 and the Caddx Vista both sitting on this bottom plate. They're both mounted here. And the same thing with this one. You got a 20 by 20 mount here. And it looks like good news for guys who want to put an O3. Say you wanted to upgrade this to O3 later. They have the bolts, they have the spots there for it. On the outside, a little closer, right there. So there's an actual spot for adding an O3 later, because the O3 is a little bit wider, as you can see right here, all the way around. So that's pretty cool. Now this is a 3.5 inch quad, whereas the Cinebot 3.0 obviously is a 3 inch. Now one thing I think is a better choice for props on the Cinebot 30. I didn't get washout on this one. This one's a pure Freestyle or Cinema. But I did get washout on this one. It may be because of 2 things. Maybe because of the prop choice, or the tune of the flight controller, or the depth and the width of these prop guards. So the Cinebot 30 is a little smaller, shorter horizontally, and they also don't have these struts on top. See, there's no struts on top, no horizontal struts here. That takes away from, it gives a little less prop wash when you're going in certain directions or changing direction really fast. So if you're going through your prop wash here, this adds a little bit of extra disrupted airflow. So these 2 struts right here is what I'm talking about. And then also a vertically taller prop guard. So all these things come into play when you're doing high-speed maneuvers. The next thing is the prop here is a little bit thicker. This prop is a Dow prop Cyclone. It's a 3528 T-mount prop. It has 2 M2 bolts that go through the top. And you can see the difference there. This is a little more curved to this blade, and these are straight on with a little smaller tip. So it's a little finer, kind of finite type of design on that other prop. This is a pretty nice, big, floaty prop, though, as far as Freestyle goes. But in high-speed maneuvers, I was having some kickback. So one thing to know there, you're going to get some type of washout, as we call it. But I think the frame is great. I love the frame. I just wish it had a little more protection like the Cinebot 30 does. You can see that aluminum plate right there. You got that top plate also protecting it from the top. And on the original Vista version of the Cinebot, we have total camera protection all the way around there. So I feel like if this one would have hit the tree, it would have fared better for the camera on the Cinebots versus the way this one sticks out the front. I think that's just like the only thing that bothers me about this design, as far as high speed and your direct impact crashes, frontal crashes. But I think it's great. You guys have to go back and watch that video of them driving a car over top of this, because they start out with an ultra thick top plate here for the carbon unibody, and then some indestructible prop guards, which are pretty awesome. You also get in the box an extra camera mount, and that may be because this thing's kind of hanging off the front here. And you also get a full-size GoPro mount that's made of this same type of either ABS or molded acrylic. It's super, super thick with the inset M2 hardware on there. You see the M2 nut down inside there. And it's kind of clear, kind of a smoky plastic, which is kind of cool. But that's nice that they came along with an extra one. You could also mount a second system up there if you wanted to fly HD0 or analog at the same time. Do some comparison testing. That'd be cool. But I think it's pretty cool. It's around $400. It's about, I'd say it's a little bit cheaper than the Cinewhoop series. If you're trying to get like an 03 or something, even with this one, I don't think it's available yet for the FoxWhoop 3.5, but I think they're going to make that available coming up soon. You'll be able to get that. It'll probably be in the $500 range, like the Cinewhoop series. But it did survive, with the exception of the O-ring that broke on that frontal crash. So a lot of fun. TBS Crossfire on there. I have my Cadex Vista set up in about 10 minutes, and I was out the door and flying this one. So I think it's a cool quad. If you want to check out the link down below or check out my other honest reviews on the channel, please do subscribe, guys. I'm Justin Davis. Take care out there, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, and all that stuff, Kwanzaa. And I just have to say, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.